So thank you very much, Zurich. It's very nice to be here. I want do a quick poll before we get started. So who has here is working with a side project? Because I think it's a really great thing to explore it. Oh, it's not so much. Okay. So then because I wanted to propose, I've written a book. It was a side project, and I wanted to propose that the ones who present their side project, the first ones would get a free book for my part. Okay. So side projects. I had a side project in 2012, and basically, I think one of the problems working with digital projects is that there's really a lot to know. There's lots going on. It's really hard to understand everything. And basically, when we come out of school, we have this gap, and we need to find out, okay, how do I make money now? And actually, my side project was a little bit different, but I wanted to make money, so I thought, okay, why the book? Then I'll try this to make a little bit of money with it. But that we have a problem with developing software nowadays that we need to find it ourselves. I think we can really see from how many people visited this talk by Ken Robinson. And I found someone at a blog from Sasha Greif, maybe you know him. And we were thinking, okay, let's maybe make a kind of Airbnb where we can meet and where we can find other software developers and interconnect and share skills and build stuff. And I started this platform as I knew Ruby on Rails quite well with this kind of architecture. But you see already the JavaScript part was growing slowly and slowly. And also I had this thought, okay, maybe you need to introduce modules. So I started to look into modules. We had the asset part where it's basically a specialized person who needs to do CSS, because indeed with responsive layouts, it's rather hard nowadays to understand everything there. And we had the part, of course, the backend to produce the data, which goes to the front end. And as we were working, we found out, okay, it's really fun, but it's still a side project. And slowly we run into problems. We found out, okay, this stack is really horrible to share, because if I wanted to show my stuff, my backend stuff or my JavaScript stuff with the CSS person, he was remote, and it was really hard to pass him a good development setup. So I tried to make a Vagrant machine, but it was really over-engineered plus. So also the deployment was hard, because you needed to set up virtual servers, and you needed to run scripts to roll out your code and so on. And it was also not so much fun. And most important, after several weeks, several months, and really several months, there was no single user who actually gave feedback. Well, do I need this? Do I? What can I do with this? So this was really a problem. And now software, it's really a difficult thing to work with, because we have all these different technologies and implementations. But I think for me, the important part software is how to solve a problem for users. And if you look into products from Apple, especially because Apple models the user very well, and also in the pioneers of the graphical user interfaces who worked at Park Xerox and who built the first Windows machines, they were talking, okay, we have style guides, we have all these technical things, but most important, we have mental models. We try what is software doing to the user. How is it that, what does a user think? What is the goal of the user, and what can I make him to reach his or her goals? And I found out that actually while preparing the presentation, that I was, wow, Keynote is actually a very good example, because we have all these very nice controls over here, and we have context over here, so we really know what's going on the slides, and we have the different views on the slides, and we have property panes, which actually then influence what we see. I think this is also something which goes into web browsers slowly. we see this is what I want as a user, and users also expect from you when you develop an interface. And so after I think in the summer I started, okay, after finishing the book I need something to do, so I thought, okay, why not thinking about how to represent my CV or my skills in a new way, such that people know what I'm interested in. This is just CSS with fluid layouts, and I found it quite interesting. But what I also think it's even getting more interesting that you actually start to visualize data with, for example, this is an idea with D3 that you can grow skills, and you see, okay, maybe my interest in Java and skills are not so good, but maybe my interest in D3 are very good, but my skills are not. So I want maybe to go into this area. And here, which I'm actually doing now, it's backbone development and other kind of projects right now. The main point here is that we start to do more things in the browser. And if you have now a side project, or if you start to think how can you model your users, then the problem gets quite clear. How can you now try to minimize or even avoid this whole PHP, DB, Rails environment, and just really start with the browser first. And as a side effect, if you really work only with browser technology, you maybe can expect less surprises, and also users expect less surprises then. So my message here is that static files are really helpful, because basically what browsers do is they fetch just HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and we need to think how we can do actually make those files. And those static files, I also want to avoid really like, do I now use Ember or do I use Angular? Because at the end, a user doesn't really is not interested if we use Ember or Angular. He just wants to know how he can arrange his stuff on the screen. And so the challenge for me, which I'm now going to discuss more in detail, is how can we translate those static structures then into basic files, which are HTML, JavaScript, and a little bit of data. If we start with a simple static project, it can maybe look like this. These are creatives which have good design skills, and we can serve then those files from a directory. And as a side effect, we can put versioning in there, and we have versioned everything. So we have versioned the data, we have versioned layout, and we have versioned the content of the project. And then we can very quickly push it to the web, and everyone can see it and can give feedback from day 0 already. So DivShot is a kind of platform which it's kind of S3. I don't know if you know S3. It's a static file server from Amazon, and with DivShot gives a nice command line interface to a CDN solution. And you also get different environments. For example, for development, you get a own URL. You get one for staging and one for production. And so you also can test in a small group and then make releases with your projects. And again, the message here, front and first, we can design, we can deliver with DivShot, and we can collect feedback from the users with this. And we even can allow with services from a no-backend technology, which I'm going to mention later in the talk. We can even store direct feedback from users in a service, which we don't need to have infrastructure. Okay, so generating files. We now imagine, okay, we're working in an agency and we have several creatives which specialize skills, and we want just to put out who is working in a team, and we don't want to write all the files by hand. So we need to think, okay, how can I make some small abstractions that I can do these processes manually, automatically. The first thing to think about is a templating engine. A templating engine takes something from Photoshop, I would say, and makes it somehow flexible so that we can put in different data in there. There are a number of templating engines. One very widely used because it's very small and very simple, it's Underscore. It's also the one which is used in many backbone projects. You take, this is the syntax, and it looks a little bit like ERB syntax, which comes from Ruby. You take the template, says with JavaScript, okay, make it into a function, and in the function you can pass an object, and the object get then replaced, and you get out the output string, and you can build HTML with this idea. Yet for many things, you want also to have a little bit of logic in there. There are different opinions if it's good or not, but I like to have logic in my templates because it makes especially quick prototyping easy. And one very popular template engine which allows you to use advanced abstraction, it's Handlebars. The idea is again the same. You have here the template, but the syntax is a little bit different. We come to it later again. And you compile it into a function, you pass an object into the function, and you get out a string again. Additionally, Handlebars has some further abstractions because you can then reduce the screen into partials, and you can define your own helpers, which you can then quite easily assemble your views with. I have a small demo to illustrate this. So demo effects, it's always fun. Let's see what comes up today. Okay. So here's the data, and you can also play with it on your own on this link. And for example, we can easily replace images and oh, good point. Oh, I closed this. Okay. Okay, so here we have the data on the left, and here's the template. We can easily now render something different. For example, this should actually be Harry Potter, and we see, oh, here it's now automatically replace Harry Potter. We can also have two images, and or no, this is also something different. And now, okay, I need to switch. Okay, so this is the idea of the template, that you actually have the same data, but you then design with your template. And once the template is fixed, you can apply it to all your different data ideas. And the good thing is now you, with Handlebars, you can also apply logic, which I will show later. So for a static page, you create them, you start with some data, you think how you make your template, and you see something on the screen, and then you can either improve your data or improve your template. Yet we can start really doing interesting things when we start using JavaScripts. So I saw that most people here use Node already, but just for the ones who don't know Node, NPM, it's a Node package manager, and it's actually now one of the biggest dependency manager in the world. So all your JavaScript packages, they come with NPM. And once you have NPM in your module, you can reference it with this require statement. And you have then, you can use it as a dependency, and you can use many dependencies here. So this is just about the basic idea of requiring the handlebars templating engine. And you then make some kind of build for your page. And the idea here is that you require also the helpers, which you build yourself, and the partials, which you also build yourself. And then to create actually the files, you use the file system dependency, and you parse the data, you put it into an object, and you pass the object then to the handlebars template. And creative shots, this is a bit the language of Dribble, I will later come to this. You then just run node build, and you get the page output. And because you will do it very often, you need some kind of build automation. Niklas did a great job showing gulp. For most projects, I just still use a simple makefile because it reminds me on other software approaches where you also need to assemble things. And the important part of the makefile is that you have here the dependencies, and if any one of the dependencies is outdated, they will be rebuilt. And you can also invoke handlebars from a command line. And this is also very interesting because this is basically doing static site generation, which there are many other projects like Jekyll, Middleman, and but you can do it. You can get very far already with just 2 commands from handlebars, and you can make it rebuild everything. Okay, so a small example for how to build now a list of items. You can define different levels in the template, and I started here to reference the creative object, which is all the creatives which would be in the agency or in this Wokimi side project. And then for every creative, you can render the profile. And because there were, as I told you, not so many creatives in the project at the start, I took now the data from Dribble, and we get some better data out there. And also we need to make actually HTML, so we need to include helpers, and this is also a very simple method to create HTML5. And now the full page would look like this. And now we are ready already. We can release it to the web, and this would be the outcome. And we are ready for feedback here. I have it also here, and if we look in the code of one of those, we see then that the data is actually just filled in from Dribble. Okay, we are not here because this could have been done already, like maybe 10 years ago. I think the important thing, what is new to the whole topic, is that we start with mobile devices, and this thing doesn't have all the time connection, so it's good to have some kind of JavaScript here in the page so that we can do even basic navigation without connection. And we can, as I mentioned earlier, we can really address the mental models of users by using JavaScript in the page. So I'm a very big fan of this way of building web projects. We had data and templates, and now we look how we can improve or start building interactions with JavaScript. There are different approaches how to look at JavaScript client side, and what I think is helpful to look at how mobile devices get built and how, for example, also the iPod works. And we always see a very clear separation between the controls and the display. So, and with the controls, we actually influence state, and the state then gets rendered on the display. And this is basically how Backbone works. It's key value observation. It's also how other frameworks work. It's property observation. It's actually coming from iOS, and Next Step had it too. So this is a way to build UIs that we actually control state from the outside and show something different to the user. And this is how it could look in the browser now if we have some creatives in the agencies and we want to make it interactive. We probably have we can easily add controls. We can put some context like we had in the Keynote slide in the Keynote software. And new in the browser, we can also really get state from the URL, and it's maybe one of the most important because we want to put that into emails or we want to tweet about it. So control state from a URL is really something really important. And this is how one approach how you could do it. This is a Backbone example that uses the Backbone Obscura plugin, and there you get all kinds of sort and filter functions out of the box. And let's look how it looked like. So we first can select the creatives here from the site. We can also browse to the page, and the state of this panel is controlled also here by the button clicks. And we can easily add sort to the Backbone Obscura plugin, and we can think, okay, what is important to know for others when they visit the site? And for example, it's maybe interesting to know who is the most productive one, who is the one who got really the best work, and who is the one who is really good for feedback maybe. So this guy commented 46 times, and this is 41. And sometimes it's also interesting to see, especially for the likes, because if someone has many likes for some work, then he's maybe also not very good available. So we want to look at someone later in the list who has less likes but is maybe better available. And we can easily do this with client-side filtering. And also important, it's the filtering, basic filtering. For example, if you have two offices, one in Berlin, one in San Francisco, it's maybe also interesting to know who is working in Berlin and who is working in San Francisco. So this is a very small Backbone app, and I describe it in one of the examples of the book. Now, let's see. Oh yeah, and you can play with it yourself at this link. And there are many more examples where we actually focus on keeping some browser state. For example, for advanced editors, or here's an example of Alex McCaw where he makes a drawing application. And it's happening all in the browser, and there's even no real API necessary to do this. So, but still, for many applications, we want to have some kind of state by users. For example, if they have a contact form, they should need to put their name there. And for this, we need some kind of backend. Yet we are slowly approaching times where people build backends for us, so we can just use the backend as a service. There's actually a guy from Zurich who, Gregor Martinez, I don't know if he's here, and he has a project, it's called nobackends.org, and he lists there all kinds of backend servers which you can use with this kind of approaches. I look at Firebase because Firebase is one of the most widely used right now. And in Firebase, it's also you just require a reference to a JavaScript object, and you can then manipulate the reference, and the reference will be automatically updated in the backend, and you don't need any infrastructure yourself. And you can easily extend the backbone collection to use the reference to Firebase, and then everyone who if you provide your view, you can store it directly into the backend. And there are even approaches that people are building shops with this. It's an example from Stripe. Also totally backend-less. And what's coming up too, because for static sites, it's still, you need to have some dynamic data sometimes. And Dishot also provides a proxy service and also some emailing service, so that if it's just a landing page where people leave their names, then you can use it as a service, and you don't need to build an email API. And
we always do it like this when we develop something that needs to be integrated by backend developers. For example, we first generate even more than a style guide. It's really a prototype kind of thing, where the backend developers then adopt the styles, the markup, and everything from that. And for this, we use static site generators with data files and everything you showed. But for this second approach, where you really generate an application that runs on a server, you mentioned pre-rendering. So I guess it's important for server hits that don't support HTML5 mode.
No, the pre-render service, it's mainly if you have many interactions and you want to get your products found by which needs to have many clicks, that the Google SEO can index it. So that's the main advantage of a pre-render service.
So you generate a sitemap with all the URLs, and then
and that's automatically done here.
And how do you do that?
No, this is how Dishot provides a service. So you just take it as a node module and enable it, and Dishot will do it for you.
And is it then important what client framework you're using, like Ember?
No, that's Dishot is just a host, and this is a service which goes then through the front end and generates these links.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Hey, come on! There must be something. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. So I'm really interested in the book.
Okay, good.
And I have not a really technical question, but kind of a different question. I mean, you mentioned a lot of tools like Backbone or this Firebase. If you had to develop a system that runs for 10 years, let's say, or you know it's going to run for a long time, you have no scruple, and I don't know the English word for, to use these tools. I mean, how do you know what's in 5 years if the development of Firebase stops? What do you do then?
Yeah, so this is more for small projects. It's not really like the enterprise thing. And I also would think in an enterprise, people have more requirements to fulfill. And this is more if you really want to get quick contact with your consumer, with your audience. So then you can use these kind of things. So if you build the next train schedule system for Swissbahn, you probably would do it different, but you could use many small prototypes in this approach to find out how to make a really good user interface. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Quick question. I'm using AngularJS now. Is there any reason to switch to Backbone?
Yeah, so it's one of the main questions which everyone is asking right now. So everyone has different opinions what is best for you, but I think what I like at Backbone is it's minimal, and you can read the source code, you can understand what's going on, and it's harder, maybe even impossible, to understand what's going on in Firebase, in Angular. And that's why I think certainly if you want to make something scalable, it's better to look at something which you can understand, because you probably can understand it in 2 or 3 years too. And if you depend on Angular, it's so big, you really get lost in this kind of DOM update functions. So.
Oh, I'm developing big games.
Okay.
Then I have to switch. You
no.
Suggest that I have to switch to Backbone?
No, I say I like Backbone for my use cases, and I'm not developing big games.
Okay, then.
But I can give you my book, so. Okay, thank you. Yeah, now I'm out of books. And the questions? Oh, yeah, great. I have discount codes if it's a replacement.
Thanks. Can you expand a bit about the no backend and Firebase?
How it works? Yeah, I can do a quick demo. So for this one, I need Wi-Fi. Is anyone, what's the Wi-Fi password to do it?
You have one on your badge.
Oh. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is my blog, and one of the example of Firebase I did. I think this is one of the simpler ones. So this is a landing page, and this is done with this Backbone collection in the background. So and everything which I sent here, it's then automatically put into Firebase. And let's see if we log in here. I have here my different collections, and let's see, I think it's this one. No. Oh, right, it's maybe still this one. And I've here then all the different data which I sent earlier. Let's see if, yeah, no. That's probably this one. So when I now, this is the backend of the database, and when I can here put hello Zurich, for example, then it's automatically accessible then from the website again. Okay. And probably I have activated here the security rules. So you can here provide rules that only people who come from outside can read it, but I don't want to read everyone my address list, so I put read false. And I have here a contact rule which comes from my Backbone collection, and I provide here write true. And I can also put some validation that you see if it's a string, people are entering email addresses, or string or something like that. So this is one idea of Firebase. And you can also put in authentication solution so that people can use OAuth to have personal collections in your database. And one example, let's see if I have it. Yeah, I had here, here the collections, they come actually from the data comes from Firebase, and I edit here, I can edit the data, let's see. Yeah, it was an idea to build a small goal tracker. And here are the goals, and when I say here, hello, no. Oh, okay, now it's, and it should be connect here, and it's automatically updated here, so, and you can use it, you can, yeah. Yeah, finally, nice demo effect. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, maybe, let's see, I can also show how DivShot looks like. So, So here's my goals tracker app in DivShot, and this is just accessible from the command line. So I push them here. In development, there's a different one than on staging and production. And here, I can also then add the different services.
Perhaps you can show us some indexing examples of Google of one of your apps that is using DivShot?
Yeah, so then I would probably go to the book website, which is hosted by DivShot. And what is your proposed to check the metrics? Ah, okay, this is no problem. So it automatically enters this one. And let's see if we do. The
So we can
subpage.
see, I mean, you should see the whole source code, right?
Ah, here, yeah, here.
So if you
this-
go to a subpage and maybe a subpage, not the index, or do you have subpages?
In this one, I have 2 routes. So here, one for the references and one for the book.
So for the ref, can you show this when you hit the server, how it looks like?
The logging of.
No, the markup from the GET request. But when you switch in the app, it's not doing a GET request for the whole page, right? You need to load the
okay.
page.
No, this one is a fully static one. Let's see. So let's see. Here, this is there's a bit of JavaScript, but there's also no push state. You mean how I handle push state then, or?
Yeah, so this, you have a state in the URL, right?
Mhm.
And the goal is to represent the state
Yeah.
in a
So-
GET response.
And this changes. So if you click here, the URL also changes. So
And if you now call this URL in a new tab and show us the source, is it rendered into the browser? Or is it constructed by the front end?
okay. So if I disable Wi-Fi, maybe. Now it's cached everything. Let's see.
Well, the
Yeah.
question was for SEO, right? So if you have a subpage with a route that is regularly or usually constructed by the front end, if you hit that page with this GET request to the server,
Yeah.
is the server really delivering the whole constructed page?
Yes, because here it's push state, so it actually it's handled by Backbone and then it's constructed. But I think the SEO, and at this point
will not.
Well, Google now supports push state, so it should.
Yeah, but they don't crawl with JavaScript, right? Or
the new one, it does. Yeah. So this is no argument again. Yeah. Yeah.
They do?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I think now I'm really on time. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
again.
much.
Yeah.